Hello, everybody. You've heard that there are 3 teachers for this class. So I am your phantom instructor. I'm Susan Long, and just wanted to greet you. I'll be back on campus next week and back in the classroom. But this is sort of the quick way for you to be forewarned that I do exist, and now you know that, I think you can still drop the course today after you have 5 minutes of me if you want to do that. So I am glad to meet you and looking forward to being back with you. My office, I'm in the sociology department, and my office is in the Soc department on the 3rd floor of the administration building. You turn right when you get up to the 3rd floor in that center part of the ad building. So I'll give you more details when I get back. Office hours should be on the syllabus, and hopefully I'll be seeing you up there as well as in the classroom. So today what I wanted to do, besides just a quick self-introduction, is to talk about a couple of the themes that we're going to be looking at all through the semester. Let me go back to last class, where I do believe that you were talking about pop culture in general and what is pop culture. And so I'll refer back to one of those themes, but in terms of what's important to me, and this is an interdisciplinary course. I'm in the sociology department, but I'm really an anthropologist hiding in the sociology department. So as an anthropologist, what seems to be critically important to what makes culture pop as opposed to other kinds of culture that we study all the time are, first, as you've heard, that we're not talking about the culture of the elite. Sometimes people talk about culture and they mean like operas and museums. That's not what we mean. Those things might be part of it, but we don't mean it in that way. So pop culture is the culture that everyday people have at least some degree of access to. It's part of daily life. But what makes pop culture different than from when we just say we're going to talk about Japanese culture? And what that difference is that it's commercialized, that it's not just common, but it's mass marketed. So I think those are the key things to keep in mind, and the themes that I'm going to be talking about will relate to some of that. So let me turn to the first theme that I'll introduce, and you'll hear about some of the other themes, or you already have maybe, from the other faculty members, from Dr. Purdy and from Nakano-sensei. So let me turn first to a Japanese term called mujo. Mujo is usually translated as something like impermanence. And as you probably have figured out already, what characteristic does that refer to in that list that you talked about last class? Short shelf life. If something has a short shelf life, you don't expect it to be around long. But in the Japanese setting, we're going to use the concept of mujo because it's got a long, deep, meaningful history in Japan. Mujo is a certain kind of impermanence, and it's been very influential in Japanese literature, in Japanese art, and just in sort of Japanese philosophy. It probably comes from Buddhism, from way back in Japanese history when Buddhism was introduced, because Buddhism looks at the world as we know it and says nothing's permanent. Life is sort of a continuous cycle of suffering, and things are just changing all the time, that we can't count on anything to stay the same. So there's that notion, and then on top of that Buddhist notion, at least as far as we're familiar, Japanese art sort of built this into a sort of nostalgia. So it's nostalgia for things that are past, and on that list of characteristics, we also talked about retro. So there's this sort of sense for nostalgia that the retro characteristic captures. But it also can be, in the Japanese context, nostalgia for something that hasn't happened yet. that hasn't even disappeared yet, a sort of valuing of something for its impermanence. And so the classic example you see on the slide is the cherry blossoms. So cherry blossoms are sort of the Japanese flower symbol of Japanese culture, I guess, in a way. So cherry blossoms are valued in large part because they go away right away. You know, if you're lucky, if you have a good year without a lot of rain, maybe they'll be around for a week or two, but that's it. And so when the cherry blossoms bloom, as we'll talk about later in the semester, people are going to go out and they're going to enjoy them because you know they're not going to last. So part of the beauty of the cherry blossoms is that it's so temporary. Okay, so what's that got to do with pop culture? Well, technology, certainly. We know Japan, in part, drives world change in technology. You know, some of us can't keep up with what's going on because the technology changes so fast. So that sort of sense of impermanence, don't get too attached. They're saying to me, like my attitude, if I'm told that, you know, it's my turn in the department to get a new computer, and I say, this one's working fine, why do I need a new computer? But I don't think that would be the attitude of most Japanese people I know. It's like, oh, good, I'm going to get the latest version of this or this. Certainly, you can think about fashion as having that mujo. And, you know, again, this is me, but I don't want to spend a ton of money. You can see, check out what I'm wearing now, but I don't want to spend a ton of money on clothes that are going to look totally outdated by next year. But you can think about mujo and that sort of appreciation of the impermanence as, well, you just have fun with it. Now, while you can, you enjoy. So those are some of the ways, and you'll see these themes that all of us are talking about today, you will see them interwoven through lots of different topics in the semester, whether it's fashion, whether it's manga or video games. So mujo is one of the sort of key concepts that I wanted to introduce you to. Okay, let me turn now to another one. So the second of these themes that I want to talk about is the theme of production and consumption. When we think about pop culture, usually my guess is we're thinking about the products of pop culture, the things that we see, that we hold, that we use to engage our imaginations. But what we don't usually think about is that there is this real world element to them. So it's not just this wonderful story in the manga or the wonderful animation in Japanese anime. It's not just how can I use this technology to link up with people all around the world. There's an on-the-ground economic and therefore political and social reality to all of that. So I really will keep knocking this in to everybody all semester. This is my special thing because I'm the social scientist in the group. So I will keep coming back to it. But I'm trying to capture this on-the-ground reality by drawing attention to the distinction between production on the one hand and consumption on the other. So, but when we're going to study production, what we need to look at is that these products that we think of as pop culture are products of a process. So what we want to be asking is who is involved in this process and what is the process itself. So we're talking about design, we're talking about manufacture. Japan is certainly well known for its manufacturing, for its design, but how does that relate? We don't usually think about that in terms of popular culture. So we consume these different products when we read a popular novel, when we watch a film, when we go to a popular restaurant. Those are all acts of consumption of things that have already been produced by other people. On the consumption side, we want to think about marketing. We want to think about who is consuming, and maybe to some degree why they're consuming. Decisions are made about these things. It's not just some exotic thing that we stumble upon that we might get really into, but these are decisions to consume at an individual level, but also at the level of the buyers in the stores and what they're carrying. It's the marketing. Who is being targeted for these products? In the case of some of the products that you're familiar with, video games, who's translating? And as we all like to complain about, who's translating the instructions? So those are just some questions that we want to keep in the back of our heads, that this is not just about analyzing the content or talking about why this or that is so much fun, but also to be thinking about these as social, economic, political processes that are going on that affect people's lives beyond just the consumption, because somebody is making those products, somebody is cleaning up after the production process and maybe being paid minimum wage. So there's just a much bigger picture, and I will now and then be trying to bring that into you over the course of the semester. So I hope that you all have a wonderful long Labor Day weekend. It's always fun to start the semester with a long weekend, and I'll look forward to seeing you in class on Wednesday. Thanks very much. Bye.